Much of the attention here on this channel obviously has been focused on Big 12 expansion and Big 12 and conference realignment, but there is some news about the AAC today that I want to get to, and now that the Big 12 and the AAC are forever linked because of the three schools joining, I figured it was time to dive in here to what the AAC might do. And if you are a fan of a team in the AAC, I think this will be of big-time interest to you because Dennis Dodd did a really deep dive on CBSSports.com. Welcome into the channel. I talk college football every single day here on this channel. Right now, that means conference realignment every day. I aim to give the Big 12 a voice. Please click subscribe if you have not to the channel. So there were a ton of details laid out by Dennis Dodd on what is happening right now at the G5 level in conference realignment, because the ripple effects will be many, as they always are. When things start at the top, it trickles down in the college football world. All right, so here is the first bit of news, and that is on a timeline for when realignment may start at the Group of 5 level. It says realignment below the Power 5 level remains in the wait-and-see stage because of the Texas and Oklahoma situation. Little is expected to happen until there is more certainty about Texas and Oklahoma's migration to the SEC. Well, Big 12 sources say publicly they are holding programs to their current media rights contract, 4 more years with Fox and ESPN. There's suspicion the two will find a way to get out before 2025. That could affect everything from conference composition to how leagues can be priced in the media market. So I understand the thought that nothing can really happen until Texas and Oklahoma decide exactly when it is that they're leaving. Most anticipate that will not be 2025, that it will be sooner. Obviously, the Big 12 is now rushing to get everybody else in by 2023. So that remains a pretty common thought out there that we're going to see some news on that. And look, some of that is just because, if we're talking about TV rights and TV revenue and moving on with these TV contracts, etc., that's a pretty big domino to fall with Texas and Oklahoma to just get a clean break from the Big 12 and make sure that we know what the Big 12 exactly is going to be for the next 3 or 4 years, what the SEC is going to be exactly. Those dominoes can start to fall more once you have that set in stone. I do, however, still think the AAC would want to be acting quicker than that, depending on when it is that we're going to find out about Texas and Oklahoma. But we shall see. Clearly, the AAC is already in the mode of courtship, as we're going to find out from Dodd. So here is who Dennis Dodd identifies as the top targets for the AAC right now. It says, in reaction to the Big 12's recent raid of Cincy, Houston, and UCF, the AAC is focused on recruiting a group of schools that includes Air Force, Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and UAB. UAB, a member of Conference USA, is the only non-Mountain West team on that short list. That suggests that AAC Commissioner Mike Aresco could be looking mostly west in search of equal television value for the 3 prize pieces he lost to the Big 12. So it's a very interesting list of schools there, and there's a ton of overlap between schools that want to be courted by the Big 12, and we're certainly trying to get their way into the expansion process of the Big 12, like a Boise, like a San Diego State. There's even a little bit of talk about Colorado State at one point in time with the Big 12 too. So interestingly enough, the top 2, according to Dennis Dodd, are Boise State and UAB. It says Boise and UAB have been discussed most prominently among the 5 expansion candidates. Inclusion of any or all of the 4 aforementioned Mountain West candidates could destabilize the league to the point that the AAC would remain the clear top conference in the group of 5. Funny, we talk about the ripple effect here and how everything follows the same kind of pattern. That was the idea with the Big 12. Like, hey, knock out the AAC, and you can ensure that in an expanded playoff, you will be getting one of those 6 automatic conference champ bids into the football playoff every single year, right? And so the logic applies here. You're kneecapping the next conference down so that you can try and stamp your place at the table to get into that playoff every single year with a conference champion. Makes sense, and Aresco's no dummy. It's not a surprise that he would go after those schools. The AAC should be aiming high here. But added to this, it's believed the AAC will expand by at least 4 teams to get to 12. It only had 11 prior to the departures of Cincy, Houston, and UCF. Okay, so there's some info on the number. I know you'd be looking around likely saying, really, is Boise State going to leave? Would these Mountain West schools want to leave for the AAC? I do think that seems like a far-fetched idea. I don't think it will happen, but Mike Aresco would not be doing his job if he were not pursuing those schools right now. You certainly start there. And apparently the pitch, according to Dodd, is that the AAC is selling Boise based on the potential to be the league's most powerful program, one that could chase a playoff spot each year based on the structure of the proposed 12-team playoff. Presented with the possibility that an expanded AAC could monopolize a group of 5 playoff berth and ongoing realignment, Mountain West Commissioner Craig Thompson stood firm. Now, this is interesting. He gave an actual quote here. He said, I would say the same argument could be made if those teams are made in the Mountain West Conference, he said. And I agree. The other part of this is if you are a school, particularly like Boise, that fancies itself a Big 12 expansion target, why not just wait around for the Big 12? I would wait around. It's a lot of maneuvering, a lot of hoops to jump through to get to the AAC, which would be a fairly lateral move, and then you're still just waiting and hoping that the Big 12 would call anyway, right? And now you have to send your Olympic sports squads all the way over to the East Coast for some of these games. It just, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense, but again, you have to shoot your shot. And here's a quote from the article that kind of backs up what I'm saying. It says, anybody with aspirations for the Big 12 might say, why would I go anywhere except wait for a couple of years and wait for the Big 12 to expand again? That's a group of 5 source in the story for Dodd. And I agree. There's also this report from the San Diego Union Tribune. It's Mark Ziegler of the San Diego Union Tribune. He says, CBS Sports reports the AAC is trying to poach San Diego State, Boise, CSU, and Air Force to cripple the Mountain West. My sources tell me they won't take the bait, realizing they're better off in an intact Mountain West and don't want to send their tennis teams to East Carolina. Yeah, that's the bottom line. We could debate all day what conference would actually be stronger, the AAC or the Mountain West, but the point is it's a very healthy debate. So why make a lateral kind of move that is going to be more expensive for your non-revenue sports when really you're just waiting around for the Big 12 anyway? More from the article for now. If the AAC can't get its top choices listed above, there's an additional group of 10 to 12 teams that would be considered, sources said. Among those teams being considered are FAU and UTSA of Conference USA. Both are seen by AAC officials as having the potential to become the new UCF, emerging programs in a large football-mad market that could make a national splash under the right conditions. And ultimately, I think that's the way that the AAC will likely have to go, and that's not a terrible plan. I think there's something to that those schools could provide a lot of value. I think the AAC is going to be okay one way or the other. Obviously, they would be better off by landing a Boise State or a San Diego State, but I think they'll still find themselves in position to do the same thing the Big 12's doing, try and grow and nurture the best athletes, quote-unquote, available. Sources also tell CBS Sports ESPN could rework its media rights deal with the AAC at a lower price due to a membership composition clause in their contract, that according once again to Dodd. And yeah, that would be tough. The contract apparently said if the AAC lost UConn, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF, that clause could be activated. Obviously, now that has happened. UConn left in 2020, and now you have the other 3 schools following suit. But, hey, the article also says Commissioner Mike Oresco is not worried about a reworking of the deal. Oresco has been telling constituents he hopes to keep the value of the conference's media rights equal to what it was before Cincy, Houston, and UCF left for the Big 12. AAC schools are paid approximately $7 million annually as a deal signed in 2019 with ESPN. So, hey, Oresco doesn't seem to be worried. He projects confidence. He certainly has done that throughout this entire process. I wish the AAC the best of luck. I know, obviously, look, realignment's a blood sport, and everybody is out to protect their own self-interest and staring their own mortality in the face, all of these things. I truly do. I wish Mike Oresco and the AAC the best of luck. I think they have some decent candidates there, even if they don't land the top ones on their list, and he seems to have the right idea and his head in the right place. I can certainly say that much about Oresco and where he is at. But interesting there, an update on what may happen with the schools like Boise State, especially in light of the news that the Big 12, in that same article to Dodd, is waiting around to see what happens with the Pac-12. And would there be schools to poach off of the Pac-12 if their new media rights deal goes poorly? If you have not subscribed to the channel right now, I'd greatly appreciate it if you did. I talk college football every day on this channel. Right now, that means conference realignment every day. I aim to give the Big 12 a voice. Follow me on Twitter at JL Kurtz. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at John Kurtz Show, and I will talk to you guys soon.